We control the horizontal. We control the vertical. Peer into the infrared.
Gamers and fans, this is Tales from the Infrared. Join us as we dive into fandom and explore comics, gaming, sci-fi, and fantasy, all from a red pill perspective. Hold on to your phasers, it's time for a nerdgasm! With your hosts, Dean Esme and Christian Chiasson.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tales from the Infrared. I am your host, Christian Chiasson, and joining me again this week, as always, is Dean Esme. How's it going, Dean?
Pretty darn good, Christian. I'm just smoking on my vape lightsaber and happy as a clam.
I want a Vamo. And also joining us this week, again, it's Jim Kelvarn. How's it going, Jim?
I'm doing quite well. I'm smoking on my very, very cheap vape.
Excellent.
I'm vaping on my Evic with a ProTank 3.
And I've got my Ego C with the ProTank 2 on it.
So
is that the voice of James Huff?
It is.
James Huff is also with us. Oh,
and
he's always
also
with
a
us.
vaping nerd.
Yeah, he is. James Huff is always with us. He's always running the back room, which is a very daunting task. So everybody, please make sure to thank James for volunteering his time.
Thank you, James.
My pleasure, folks.
Now, this week, we don't have Rachel Edwards this week. I'm not exactly sure. She was pretty excited about doing the show. Maybe she'll show up a little bit later in the show. Yeah, she's dead to us. Fuck that bitch. But let me give it over to Dean, and Dean's going to run us through our topics of discussion for this week. Dean, what's on the slate?
Well, let's see. We have several interesting stories in the news, all of which bear some interesting discussing. We have the first one, which is the first story we've got listed here is the Oculus Rift sexist? Now, the Oculus Rift, in case you don't know it, is a newish technology, basically where you put on a set of goggles and it puts you in a 3D virtual universe. That's essentially what it is. Now, a researcher named Dana Boyd came up with a pretty good analysis of why there appear to be sex differences in how people perceive depth, how their depth perception works. Unfortunately, she chose to use the word sexist and to claim that this technology is sexist, which kind of soured the whole thing, at least in my view, maybe in others too. just because sexism implies intent, and it's more of the feminist nonsense that we all get tired of hearing. However, buried within that ideological spin, she does have some interesting observations, which may well be scientifically valid. So you can see that if you go to the show notes and look at the link under "Is the Oculus Rift Sexist?" you'll see that story and the paper she did. And the factual information she gives is interesting, which is that, namely, it turns out there are two main ways that people perceive depth or 3D, not just one. We normally think that depth perception comes from our eyes, and when something gets larger, we assume it's getting closer, and when something gets smaller, we assume it's getting farther away, and that's one way that people perceive depth. Makes perfect sense, right? Because your brain knows, wait a minute, that's getting bigger, but it's not actually moving, so it must be coming closer, or I must be getting closer to it, right? So that's one way, but apparently there's a way, which is by shading and by noticing differences in the shading of the light as something moves closer or far away. And it turns out that the shading way that people perceive depth is something that women are more prone to doing. So in other words, men are more attuned to shape when perceiving depth perception, and women are more attuned to perceive changes, shifts in shading, in color, which helps explain why observers have noticed that men tend to adapt to things like the Oculus Rift a little more easily than women do. Women more often feel disoriented by the Oculus Rift than men do. And with this information, they may well be able to improve 3D technology so it works better for everybody, men and women alike. I think the only thing we didn't like in Dana's story about this, which is otherwise very fascinating, is for her to put an activist spin on it rather than just a rational scientific spin. You also have to wonder what those who claim that sex is all socialized and all that would have, how they would explain that just hormonal variations change how people perceive things like depth perception. But we'll talk about that in the discussion segment. Moving on in the news, there is a huge coalition being led by corporate giants Amazon, Microsoft, and others to take a stand against the American Federal Communications Commission's stance on net neutrality. Comcast and other mega corporate internet service providers have been wanting to charge people more, depending on, basically they've been wanting to use discriminatory pricing for certain types of traffic, whereas content providers strongly object to this. What you really have going on here is a battle of two sets of corporate giants, but in the middle of the whole thing, is the average consumer. And I guess you've got to decide which big corporations you want to get behind. But in any case, a whole bunch of companies led by Amazon, eBay, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, Netflix, Twitter, and Yahoo are all challenging the current FCC ruling, saying that internet service providers can charge some people more than others, or some service provider, some content providers more for their content. All these companies signed a letter to the FCC regarding it, and while it doesn't explicitly mention a course of action, like calling on the FCC to regulate internet service providers as utilities, the coalition strongly espouses the benefits of an open internet. And they say the Commission's long-standing commitment and actions undertaken to protect the open internet are a central reason why the internet remains an engine of entrepreneurship and economic growth. The Commission should take necessary steps to ensure that the internet remains an open platform for speech and commerce, so that America continues to lead the world in technology markets. This marks the first time influential tech companies like Amazon have expressed a stance on net neutrality regulations since news of the FCC proposal broke on April 23rd. So it appears that technology companies have found the united front in calling for open internet rules that preserve non-discrimination of net neutrality. Of course, those who argue that internet service providers should be able to charge anybody anything they want to use their pipes will have their own response, I'm sure. I've already made it clear where I stand. Where you stand is up to you. Moving on. Our old friend Anita Sarkeesian is back. Oh boy. Feminist Frequency on their Tumblr page has released a partial list of games that, well, supposedly Anita will be using for her next video in her Tropes versus Women in Video Games series, which she's calling Women as Background Decoration. If you have played even a small sampling of these games well, it's confusing because supposedly Anita's playing them, but then the word they gets used a lot, which means she's apparently getting help. But whatever. If you've played even a small number of these games, you know this is going to be more of her usual amount of chicanery. She includes games like Dragon Age, or the whole Dragon Age series. But she includes only downloadable content from Mass Effect 3, Mass Effect 2, racing games, and the Fallout series. In any of these games, you can pretty much bet she's only going to cherry-pick the best things to prove her point, because that is her modus operandi, at least so far. Does anyone think she'll actually use her own footage this time? Or will it be more of ripping off other people's footage and pretending she's played these games? I guess only time will tell. Also, we have no link to this in the show notes, but I'm going to mention that out there is a small group, an obscure group calling themselves Women Against Feminist Gamers. This new group has appeared with no one's names or faces. They're calling themselves Women Against Feminist Gamers and are opposing some feminist movie that currently has a Kickstarter campaign on video games. Since these so-called Women Against Feminist Gamers do not put their names or faces on the effort, I, at least, and so do others, strongly suspect that this is a troll effort. In other words, that the Women Against Feminist Gamers may well be the feminists themselves who are trying to make their feminist video game movie. We know from history that Anita Sarkeesian successfully played damsel in distress using a number of manipulative techniques to make it look like all of her critics were violent, misogynistic brutes, and that this made her quite a lot of dough and quite famous. And it would not surprise me in the least if the makers of this feminist Kickstarter to promote women in video games actually put out a phony video claiming to be Women Against Feminist Video Games. So I'm not even going to give a link to these people, but if you find their video, you'll see that it's very suspicious. They don't put their names or faces on it. They use automated robot voices. I think that if Women Against Feminist Video Gamers is a legitimate group, they need to do two things. A, put their real name on their stuff, and B, actually start your own Kickstarter for your own counter-proposal rather than telling people, don't fund this one Kickstarter. Has too much of a don't throw me in that briar patch flavor to it, at least to me. Anyway, if you're really interested, I'm putting a warning out there. If you see something called Women Against Feminist Video Games, start asking them some hard questions before you start promoting their videos and their other stuff. Moving on in the news, we have some interesting comics news, which is a bunch of social justice warriors have appeared to have chosen this time to be upset that Spiderman, Marvel's Spiderman, isn't gay. There have been a spate of stories on this complaining, amongst other things, that it's no longer possible to see a straight, nerdy white guy as being the underdog, and suggesting that they should make Spider-Man gay. It's hard to know what to say about this. At A Voice for Men and Tales from the Infrared, we really don't have a problem with gay guys or gay women or whatever. It's nobody's business, you know. Why the sudden interest in gay superheroes when we've had people trying to putting out gay superheroes for, I don't know, since the 90s, if I recall right? Why pick on Spider-Man? But apparently
the 80s, actually,
yeah,
Dean.
The 80s. But apparently they're just saying, well, Peter Parker's an underdog, and white dudes can't be straight white dudes can't be underdogs anymore. That's the bottom line. We'll talk about this more in the discussion segment, I'm sure. Moving back to technology, Microsoft is about to start selling the Xbox One without the Kinect. If you're not aware of the Kinect, it's the special sensor that lets you manipulate the game environments just by moving around your hands, your feet, your head, your body posture, etc. Microsoft has slashed the price of its Xbox One console and is offering the device without Kinect. Beginning June 9, it'll offer the Xbox One for $399 in all markets where it's sold, a $100 price cut from the one bundled with Kinect. Customers can place pre-orders now. In a post on Tuesday morning, Microsoft also announced the Xbox One and the older Xbox 360 console will no longer require a Live Gold subscription, which costs $60 a year to access streaming apps like Netflix, Hulu, Plus, YouTube, and HBO Go. Good, because that was always stupid. And finally, Game of Thrones, which we probably will talk about on every episode of Tales from the Infrared until this season ends. This week, Entertainment Weekly is taken on talking about Tyrion Lannister, everyone's favorite dwarf. In the first page of the interview, they talk about the CGI, Sir Pounce, and even the White Walker scene with Craster's baby. But the second page is all about the trial, Tyrion's decision, and the Lannister drama unfolding. I can hardly wait till tomorrow night when we find out what happens there. That's the news this week. Where you guys want to go from here?
Well, I'm always up for slamming Sarkeesian in the ass.
You horrifically misogynist brute.
Thank you.
This is why she needed $150,000. You, Jim Kilvarn, are the reason why she needs probably another $150,000 to recover from that very remark you just made.
Thank you.
Please give her more money because she's done so much good with it. And this is why I'm suspicious, okay? I mean, I don't know if people out there have watched, and I mean, it's hard to know where to end with the Anita Sarkeesian trial. She has done so many things that are devious, manipulative, and dishonest to make that trope sin. Not only are the videos dishonest and deceptive, but her ways of getting attention are dishonest and deceptive. And just look at this list of games that she's going to call out as sexist. This time is using women as decorative objects. The one that made my eye drop, because I've only played a little bit of Mass Effect, but I am a Fallout maniac. I love Fallout 3.
Yeah.
I love Fallout New Vegas. Yeah, dude, they're like my favorite games of the last 5-10 years. They really, really are.
So modded.
And so modded?
Yeah.
You modded your copy?
Oh my god, I've got so many mods.
Gotta have you share that with me sometime.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing.
Fallout is one of the best series ever. I'm really disappointed that it's not coming back, or at least according to the makers. I fucking love that game, and whether it's Fallout 3 or Fallout New Vegas, I want to know what Anita Sarkeesian is going to do to try to make this series out as sexist and as using women as decorative objects.
Well,
there are a few examples of it happening in Fallout, but there's also... Go ahead, somebody say something else, because I'm just...
Okay, one thing I can see is she's going to look at them as basically the background noise. That's one thing I'm thinking of as a possibility. The problem with it is she's not... Women aren't the only background there. If you look at any of the games, you'll see men as background, women as background, and from what I've seen of Fallout...
Children as background.
Yes, children as well.
And mutants.
Yes,
and
in
ghouls.
Fallout...
Ghouls are background.
James.
Just saying.
You want to go? I'll let you go. I have no problem with that.
I'm just saying.
But I mean, if you look at any game and every game out there, you'll see background people, background pixels in video games that some of them are girls, some of them are guys. And how is this fucking sexist in any way, shape, or form?
Because the women are sometimes scantily clad.
I don't care. Look at some of the guys. I mean, I can sit there and point out in multiple Mass Effect 3s where the guys, hell, some of them are probably shirtless. Not just Mass Effect 3. You've got guys in wife beaters in some of the racing games. Okay, so girls don't run around in bikinis when it's nice out. I know in California they do quite often, especially in the summer. But this is sexist. I fail to see how it's sexist when this is actually how people do it. This is how people live.
Well, you know what gets me with the whole idea of the Fallout games is the fact that you can point to so many viable female characters in the Fallout games. I mean, you look at the companions that you can pick up in Fallout New Vegas. How many of them are female? And they've got their own storylines, their own
Well, even in Mass
their
Effect,
own quests.
yeah,
Hey,
even
I
in
smell
Mass
the
Effect 3.
presence. I smell the presence of a female.
I do too. Is there a female here? What happened?
Yeah.
Rachel is finally with us. She overslept.
You're
Bad
dead
girl.
to us. You're dead to us.
I was
you need to
talking to
leave
some-
now.
To some really drunk ass friends last night. I wasn't
Bad
drunk
girl.
myself.
Bad girl.
I know. I'm never really for show. I'm really sorry, guys.
That's fine.
So, Anita Sarkeesian, say something mean about her right now, and that'll make it up to us.
She's a cunt.
That'll work.
That works. Okay, getting back on my point, if you look at Mass Effect 3 Omega, the whole point of it is actually the story of a female character. It's trying to take back Omega. It's Arya T'Loak trying to take back what was hers, and the other character brought in is a female Tyrion. So technically, if you play as a female in the Mass Effect series, it's all women kicking the dog shit out of the bad guys. How is this sexist?
You know, I remember on the first show I ever did with Christian, and this was like more than a year ago. Before, I mean, like the last that we did 4 episodes of Tales from the Infrared, and then we stopped, and we were gone for almost a year. And during that hiatus, the very last show we had done had been the first one I did with Christian, and we were talking about Fallout. And there'd been some story in the news about people complaining about Fallout, about sexism in video games. And I made note of the fact that why don't feminists call out the Fallout series, because it's probably the least sexist game system I've ever seen. You can play as either sex. There is no difference. You can be gay. You can be straight. The characters in the game are male, female. There's just no real difference. It's probably the most sex-neutral game I've ever seen, yet feminists never praised it for anything like that.
I would have to
Isn't
agree.
the Fallout series on Anita's list?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's on her hit list, so she's even going to find a way to criticize Fallout. I can just hardly wait, man. It's ridiculous.
Well, the same thing. Mass Effect, you can play female Shepard, which honestly I enjoy watching a female Shepard run around. But
You sexist pig.
yes, I am. And you can be a gay male Shepard, or you can be a gay female Shepard, straight male Shepard, straight female. What the fuck?
Well, she doesn't really care about whether it's actually sexist. She's just bullshitting people for money.
Yeah. Oh, I'm well aware of that. I hope our audience and other people are becoming more and more aware of it.
I think people are waking up about it. Even her fans, her die-hard fans, are starting to, one by one, just wake up. And, it's not like people like Rebecca Watson. Those people are there, for the long haul. She could say anything, and, they wouldn't care.
I've seen some of the things she says, and I'm just face-palming half the time. It's like, how stupid are you?
But the people that like Anita Sarkeesian, I think, are attracted to different things, and she's not aware of the kind of community that attracts to her, that attracts to video games, that attracts to feminism, and she's completely insulted like nearly every one of them.
Has she really? Can you give me an example of this?
Well, you remember the incident where they found out that she had been using art that wasn't hers for years, and she just mistreated the artist.
Who was a female?
Yeah, who was a female? And they were like, just pretty much like, oh, well, we can use it because of copyright laws. I'm like, you could, like, even if it were legal, it's still a fucking dick move. And she pissed off collectively, like, all of the, the sort of deviant art, like, Tumblrettes and stuff like that, who are really hardcore against art theft. And there's a lot of them. Really, there's a huge overlap between the two. And I don't think that she anticipated that. And a lot of them just said, you know what, fuck this. All the content producers on YouTube, like gamers and stuff like that, they got pissed off when she used footage that wasn't hers. I mean, it's cutting corners. And there's no excuse for it, because there was actually a guy who did Kickstarter and asked for, I think, like something along the lines of $3,000, and they did a fan video of an Akira trailer, a live-action Akira trailer, and that thing looks fucking amazing. And that's like a fraction of her asking, of the amount she asked for originally.
And it's an even smaller fraction of the amount she got in the long run.
Yeah, and they did more with that, I think, $3,000 than she ever did. With
yeah. I mean, as time goes on, I think more and more people are going to realize that she's half-assing the video series. She was only ever interested in getting the money. That giant stack of games that she got a picture of with her sort of leaning on them almost, those were all bought secondhand at as low as $2 to $5 a piece. That entire stack of games she might have spent maybe $150 on in total. As for the
something I want to bring up, Anaximander brought up in chat. She's doing a shit job of things since she's causing more infighting within feminism, and my thought was, if it's causing infighting within feminism, wouldn't she be an MRA? A really shitty one, granted, but...
a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Something like that.
No,
I honestly think...
No, because even MRAs wouldn't do such dick moves as what she's done. We're just not like that. We're not going to sit there and steal other people's content and then claim it as our own. No. Let's leave Anita Sarkeesian's name as far away from MRA as we possibly can.
I'll agree with you, James. It's just it is a good tactic to sit there and I'm sure we've seen fembots doing the same thing, coming into spaces, calling themselves MRAs, and just being complete and total dicks.
Oh, I see that all the time, too. That's why I was initially excited, and then I thought, whoa, and backed up when I saw this supposed group, Women Against Feminist Gamers. I yanked the link from the show notes. I pulled it out completely because it's pretty clear that if you've got a group and you're claiming to be women who are against people like Anita Sarkeesian, you need to put your name and face on your shit, as opposed to putting out a robot voice thing, encouraging people to go attack a feminist project. I'll bet you 90, I'll bet you 3 to 1 that the makers of that feminist project are the ones who are behind Women Against Feminist video games.
Probably.
You guys understand what I mean?
Yeah,
right?
because
create a phony narrative.
I just want to clarify for the audience here that when Dean says they're using robotic voices, what they're actually doing is they're running typed copy through Microsoft's text-to-speech engine. Microsoft
Right.
Windows, I believe Vista and 7 and 8 all have a built-in TTS engine, text-to-speech engine, which you can literally just type up words in Notepad and have the computer read it to you. It's part of their accessibility options for the blind.
Oh.
And that's essentially all they're doing. And there's little to no effort put into the videos that they make.
Well, the thing
which
with it
is
that,
what originally made me believe that this is just a troll.
Yep.
oh, and that's kind of the point I'm making is it a lot of this sounds very much like what the fembots do, which is tell people to attack. They're attacking feminists to create more of the narrative that they want, which is not something we would endorse, we would support. In fact, we generally say, don't do it. Keep it respectful. Keep it honest.
Keep it on point. If you're gonna argue anything, make sure you argue the facts. Don't personally attack anybody. Don't fall into the trap of using logical fallacies like ad hominems, and that. Just make sure you're on point. Make sure that
Exactly.
you argue the facts and you have the research to back it up.
Exactly.
Don't make rape threats or don't say things like, I hope you get raped, even though technically that's not a rape threat. It still is used as rape threats by many, like Anita Sarkeesian and Rebecca Watson.
Even though I've had people say that to me, that's not a rape threat. It is a rape threat if you say it to a feminist, apparently. But yeah, no, we've seen this before. We have seen people pretending to be MRAs. And what usually happens is that they appear out of nowhere and they disappear just as fast. In fact, we had at least one incident where, of course, everybody knows the most ridiculous of all the MRA critics is man boobs, right? We actually watched one day as on one of Typhon Blue's videos, a new commenter appeared claiming to be an MRA that no one had heard from before, left some really vicious, violent, nasty, racist comments, and then disappeared. We went and saw that account had just been created within the last hour or two, and Typhon deleted them off her channel, but they were already on man boobs as an example of typical MRA commentary. But apparently people don't seem to think there's any such thing as feminist sock puppeting and pretending to be MRAs. Yeah, give me a break. We see it all the time. We see it on Reddit. We see it on YouTube. And I'm betting this Women Against Feminist Video Games is more sock puppeting. Because if they were legitimate, they'd be like Rachel and the Honey Badgers. Here's who I am, and here's why I don't like those bitches. Right, Rachel?
Here's my real voice.
Yep.
Here's some actual time and effort put into my videos. Like, I think it's also still suspected that Anita herself went to 4chan to cause up, to try and drum up all that troll rage she got over her Kickstarter to get more money.
I can't tell
it
you how
happens
many
all the time.
times people thought I was some kind of dude, like being a sock puppet. They're like, you're just one of those fedora MRA sock puppets or something. You're not a real woman. So I was like,
remind me to buy you a fedora for your birthday.
I don't know. I have a pretty giant head.
Only people with penises can wear fedoras. You know that.
Oh, I didn't know that rule.
That's patriarchy
Anyway,
rule
I've
number
got a really big, wide head. It's kind of a bit awkward. I'm still looking for new glasses, like the nice, thick plastic ones. I can't find them in my size because it's just slightly, like a millimeter off. That's weird. Me and my giant head.
Yeah, that just brings the thought from So I Married an Axe Murderer.
Oh, right. That's an obscure reference if you've never seen that movie. But yeah. Oh, look at his head. It's so giant. It's an obscure Mike Myers movie that like 5 people saw, of which Jim Calvarn is one, apparently. So, yeah.
There's like a giant cappuccino in the beginning.
Yeah, that was the one.
It's got its own orbit.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've all seen it, but we're all nerds, haven't we? I honestly think at this point that most of the feminist community doesn't care what Anita does. I really like. I was blown away when she got this award, right? This ambassador award. What was that? 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we heard about this. She got an ambassador award for video games. I doubt if anybody who giving her that award really pays attention to her videos anyway. Or like, I think the women watching her videos, probably not a single one of them plays video games, so none of them will be able to call her on her bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, there's a clear difference between girl gamers and actual female gamers. Actual female gamers will play the game for the sake of playing the game and enjoy it. Girl gamers, you could always tell when you're playing online with a girl gamer because they always got this higher pitched, cutesy voice. You know how some women do. They raise their tone of voice an octave or two, and they always try and make themselves sound dumb but flirtatious.
Oh gosh.
It's fucking annoying.
Or they try to play the damsel and demand that whoever else is in the party protects their character.
Really?
I've seen that happen.
See, last time I actually played one of those MMORPGs. It was like City of Heroes, and I was the one who was like, "Hey, you know what? I want to go hunt like the big monsters and shit. Let's go get them." And I kept dying because I was always like running in there like dick first, and just like I was one of the blasty characters, so I was like really squishy, and so I died easily. And they're like, "Hey, stay in the back. You're gonna get yourself killed." And I'm like,
what I'm talking about is one of these typical girl gamers who decides they're gonna play this hulking tank, right? They decide they're gonna play this hulking tank, and then they go in and they go, "Oh my god, I really don't know what I'm doing. So can you guys get in front of me? Can you guys help me out? What am I supposed to be doing?"
Oh god, I just recently started playing WoW. I jumped on one of my DPS characters again. Yeah, I used to play WoW. I have several 90s, to my shame. I'm also a SWTOR junkie as well. I'm generally the tank. Occasionally I'm the healer. But if I'm not the tank, I get stuck half the time with exactly those. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's like, kick this fucker!
No shit.
Another thing I've seen in games, and this is one feminists don't like talking about because they like to talk about how chicks supposedly get harassed all the time and hit on in these games, which, by the way, there's some truth to it. But I've gone on some MMOs as a female character and find people are extra nice to me and just give me stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I found. Like, when I started playing a healer, I started playing a Discipline Priest in World of Warcraft. I fucking love playing Discipline Priest, by the way. I'm
some guys
probably
just like
one of
playing females.
Well, I mean,
not?
like it's very rare that you find a guy who likes playing a healing class, but I like playing the healing classes.
I'll be honest with you. If I'm gonna level a character up to 90 or 50 or whatever the max level is, I would much rather watch the back end of a female.
It is true.
But I mean, like my
and
first
occasionally slap her ass and deliver that
priest.
healing touch,
And then if
right?
you can just change your clothes and stuff, so she looks really great.
No, like I actually created a female Draenei as my initial Discipline Priest.
Ooh,
and
sexy.
When I reached level 80 level 80, and that was Wrath of the Lich King. I stopped playing when Cataclysm hit because I didn't like what they did to Discipline Priests. But when I reached level 80, I was in like just a couple of hero blues and some greens. And I met up with this group who was going through Halls of Lightning. They were going to do a heroic Halls of Lightning. And that's how I actually met the guild leader for the guild that I joined.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what the guild was called. It was so long ago. Acceptable Losses. on the Dalaran realm. And they took me through. I was really good. Like, I researched, even though I was in just greens and a couple of, like, heroic blues or random blues, I researched my character. I knew exactly how to heal. I had all of the proper healing add-ons for the Discipline Priests, grid, click. I knew what I was doing, and they immediately asked me to join them because they said they needed a healer. I was just standing outside of Halls of Lightning. They immediately asked me to join them. I was like, okay, I hope these guys don't think I'm really a chick.
Oh no!
But as it turns out, they did, and that's why they asked me to join up. And when we did the heroic, nobody died. We didn't wipe. I was able to keep everybody up as a discipline priest. The discipline priests typically are single target healers, but I was able to actually keep everybody up during all of the standard AOE boss attacks. And they asked me to join them on TeamSpeak. They were surprised when they heard my voice for the first time. But they still asked me to join the guild, which is cool. And I went on to be their main discipline priest healer. I went on every raid they did since then.
It's like, that chick's got a low voice. What's up with that?
Like
Dude,
404 says in the...
It's common, and that's why I'm tired of hearing that women face, quote, I don't know, whatever. People will treat you different based on your sex, but there's advantages and disadvantages to both. It's not a one-sided thing. And guess what? If we were also fucking homophobic and sexist, you would have been kicked out of that group as soon as somebody found out you were a dude playing a chick. But nobody really cared, did they?
Nobody cared. They saw that I was good. I mean, they were a little bit disappointed that I wasn't a chick.
Yeah,
but they still invited me to the guild, and they made me their main discipline priest healer.
Well,
so I healed the tanks in every single raid from Naxxramas all the way up to Ice Crown Citadel.
Nice. In SWTOR, I will admit, I was flirting hardcore with a female healer and invited the person to the guild, and he actually became a great friend of mine. I'm not gonna lie.
You're like, hey,
I thought it was a chick. We sat there and we flirted back and forth. I ended up talking to the person. It was a guy, but he became a great friend of mine. I liked him. He was a great healer. Invited him to my guild. He did a great job every time he played, and that's what I looked for. As a guild leader, I will be honest with you. That's what I look for in a player, is that they do their job well. I could give a shit what's between their legs, but I will admit it is fun to have a female in there to flirt with.
But
I mean, like,
I don't want to push the tone of the show here, but what you just said would make the freaking most awesome segue into the whole Spider-Man thing.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah, we could segue into the Spider-Man thing.
Go, go, go.
Because that's something I really want to talk about.
Really? Because I can't make myself give a shit. So you tell me why I give a shit.
Mainly because the Salon article is, really trying to push the idea of making Peter Parker, not Spider-Man, but Peter Parker non-white and non-straight. Now, if you want to make a non-white, non-straight Spider-Man, sure, create a new character. In fact, there are already 2 non-white characters in Marvel canon, Spider-Man canon, that are Spider-Man that are non-white, and well, they're non-white. I'm not too sure about their sexual preferences. But there's Miguel O'Hara, who is Spider-Man in the canon series Spider-Man 2099, which is a futuristic Spider-Man, and he's Hispanic American. And there's also Miles Morales, who is half black, half Hispanic, half Latino.
That's a lot of halves.
Problem with. Yeah, you know what? I have no problem with that. Okay, they're non-white. I don't give a shit if they're non-white. Are they a well-written character? Yeah, they're really well-written characters. They are.
Even then, I mean...
But why do you want to make Peter Parker non-white and non-straight? Why Peter Parker? I mean, why do you want to change Peter Parker? Why can't you create
because
a new character?
2099 did not pick up and is not as well known as mainstream Peter Parker Spider-Man. And I'm going to throw it out there. I'm getting fucking sick of the same damned tactics being used by the LBGTQ WXYZ community that the feminists have been using. I'm sick of it. I don't care. I don't care what you've got between your legs. I don't care who or what you're fucking. I don't care. Okay? And if you think by bringing all this crap up about white male privilege, oh, and he's cisgendered, oh god. And if you think bringing all that up inside of mainstream comics is going to actually accomplish anything except make people more aware of the fucking divisions between us instead of actually focusing on the story. What's the story? The story is about a guy being a hero. Okay? Oh god, the feminists are going to jump all out. That's right, this story is about a guy being a hero. Oh god. Now we need to instead of making him a non-white gay person, we need to make him a non-white female lesbian. That's what we need.
You know, the most infuriating thing, I think, is just that, what was I, sorry, my brain. It's that they, oh, sorry, go on. Sorry, let me collect my thoughts.
I'll tell you what got me. I'll tell you what set me off. Because I really don't care either. I mean, and I'm old enough to remember when it was actually a big deal to be gay, as in...
Oh, I remember what I was saying.
When being gay in particular, you know, might get you, especially if you were a gay male, by the way. Gay males have always had it tougher than gay females, at least in this culture. When that could get you killed, that could get the shit beat out of you. That was real. You could get murdered for that shit. It used to be really bad. It's not like that anymore, for the most part. Still happens, but it's not like that. But what got me was the statement that, basically the straight white male can no longer be the underdog.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, that's part of this Peter Parker mythos, is that he is nerdy and insecure, and at least in his personal life, he's constantly dogged with problems. Financial problems, problems with girls, personal tragedies that he's dealing with, etc. And one of my pet theories, and it's been for a couple of years now, is that feminists are obsessed with... They've encroached on every area except where nerdy, geeky guys hang out. And now they've decided that it's nerdy, geeky guys who are oppressing women more than anybody else.
Seriously?
Which is seriously! That's why they want you into the STEM fields. That's why they're complaining about comic books and video games. And what's really disturbing about it is, as somebody who's been a nerd since the 70s, every nerd and geek I've ever known has wished there were more female geeks and nerds to hang out and share this stuff with them. But the social justice warriors have instead decided that geeky and nerdy guys, white or otherwise, are actually oppressing women.
This is hey, and look,
they've constructed this idea of that it's some kind of exclusive boys club, and I'm like, no, bring the women, bring them in, bring them into those spaces. We need more. I know so many, just really nice single nerdy guys that would love to meet some geeky girls. Bring them in.
Can't find them, right? And it's so offensive. It's just like, what do you mean? If you're male, you can't really have problems unless you're gay. If you're male, you really can't have a really rough, horrible life unless you're also, dark-skinned. What the fuck kind of bullshit is that? It's the belief
in white male privilege and shit like that. Like, you can't possibly be an underdog or have real heavy problems, just crushing depression or any of that stuff, unless you are, this list of minorities.
So a trailer trash white boy is automatically privileged over Barack and Michelle Obama's daughters.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
right?
I have several things on this, but James, I know, has been chomping at the bit. I think we need to give him a minute.
I have a comment that I want to read out. I tried to put a comment on that article, but they didn't accept it. I tried 3 separate times, and they would not allow the comment to go through. So I'd like to read that, but go ahead, James, if you have something to say.
No. Read your comment, man. Go for it.
Okay. Well, first of all, I in the comment, I use a term. I use the term libtard left. Now, before I read the comment, I just want to make it clear I'm not trying to make this a left-right issue. When I say libtard left, I am saying that they are so far left, they're fucking nuts. Just like the neocons are, or the tradcons are on the right. So I am not trying to make this a left-right issue. But my comment goes as follows. Okay, enough with this crap now, please. I'm really starting to think the libtard left is just trying to make anything white and straight shameful, and possibly even trying to erase it from all media everywhere. Peter Parker, the fictional comic book character, is white, straight, and a nerd. You see, it isn't the white part or the straight part that makes him an underdog. The nerd part does. Our species celebrates jocks, those who are athletic, strong, fast, and who have hard-built bodies. Nerds, on the other hand, are only revered well into their late 30s and early 40s when all of their bookworming has paid off in the form of a great job with a great salary. Peter Parker is not in his 30s or 40s. He's a teenager, so he's still a social outcast, and his skin color or sexual orientation doesn't mitigate this. He's a fucking nerd, and the jocks want to pick on him for it. Now here's a great idea. You create your own comic with original characters, and you can make the hero any skin color or sexual orientation you fucking well please. But I'll give you a tip for free as an avid comic book reader. If you only create it for the sake of having a gay racial minority hero, and you fail to write it well, it will fail. Remember that story writing and plot execution are both higher priority than pushing some left-wing agenda through specific character traits. That's my comment.
Okay, go for it,
wow,
James.
that just encapsulated anything that I wanted to say on the subject. There you go.
Well done, Christian.
Well, I've got a couple of things beyond that. What I see is they're not actually going after just Peter Parker. I think they're also going after the popular stuff. Peter Parker's become popular over the years for various reasons. I'm sure we could go on to a show and discuss that all in it itself. But he's what's popular. X-Men is what's popular. All these things are what's popular. And it seems like they're just trying to be the popular group and take over as the popular group.
Well, nobody seems to remember that there are over 200 Marvel superheroes that don't really get a whole lot, even though they're absolutely amazing. Like Domino, for instance, a female character, badass, fucking badass character. Like
Domino, Mockingbird. I could come up with half a dozen others if I took a moment. It's been a while.
That monkey hitman. He's a hitman and he's a monkey.
The Wasp.
But like I seriously doubt, and I have a very hard time trying to even convince myself that anybody who complains about Peter Parker being white and straight and wanting to see him non-white and non-straight, I have a very hard time believing that they even have they've ever read a comic book in their life.
I'll have to agree with you on that.
Because there are plenty of comic book heroes that are non-white, that are non-straight, that are non-male, that are just absolutely badass. Not because they're non-white, non-straight, or non-male, but because they're written well. Because the story is there, the plot execution is fucking fantastic, and they just work as comic book stories. That's why they're so great. The only problem is they don't really get a whole lot of attention because there are so many to choose from. Most people tend to gravitate towards the most popular of the great. the X-Men, the Spiderman, the Punisher, Ghost Rider,
Fantastic Four,
Silver
still
Surfer,
Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman.
I hate Superman.
Wait,
But I have a very hard time believing that any of them actually ever read a comic because they don't seem to bring up any of these characters and ask why aren't these characters more popular.
Aren't they
It's like they
making,
don't
like,
even
in the
know
new,
that they exist. Like they don't know that Domino or Mockingbird exist. Like they don't know that what's another obscure comic book hero?
I'll give you one that's not so
Spider-Woman.
obscure.
Cable.
I'll give you one that's not so obscure.
Squirrel
who's
Girl!
actually- yeah, Squirrel Girl actually took down Dr. Doom by herself. But I'll give you another one who's not so obscure, who's actually fairly popular, but she failed. She led the Justice League, and that's Black Canary. She led the fucking Justice League for a while. Batman said, "It's your time. Go for it."
Okay.
Where were these feminists sitting there getting behind Black Canary leading the Justice League, the premier fucking superhero group of the DC universe?
Yeah.
And the reason
I'll
they
tell you
failed
where they are. I'll tell you where they are. They're nowhere to be found because the vocal ones in this discussion who want to make Peter Parker or pretty much any white, straight, male hero, non-white, non-straight, and possibly even non-male, the vocal ones are the far, far, far politically either left or right who are just fucking nut jobs. And they don't care that Black Canary was a strong female hero character in a leadership role. Batman is still white and straight. Superman is still white and straight, albeit he's not human. Peter Parker is still white and straight. They don't care that the strong, non-white, non-straight, and non-male characters exist. They want to turn the white, straight, male characters into non-straight, non-white, and possibly non-male characters.
And my question is, and I'm taking this directly out of Kids from the Hall. Okay? Well, my statement, not a question, is that naked, fat, black, crippled dykes are hard to find.
I remember that skit. That was pretty funny.
They're hard to find. So you tell me, when you've got a minority population, why all of a sudden, and by minority I'm talking more sexuality than skin color, why all of a sudden they want to take up the majority of the space? What's up with
Well,
that?
you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of people with degrees in women's studies complaining that there's not more female engineers.
Yeah.
I'm like, bitch, if you want more women in engineering, why don't you go get an engineering degree?
And see, that's the funny thing, because so many of these feminists, these professional feminists, they have degrees and other things that they could be doing, or they had every possibility of just getting an engineering degree or a degree in biology or any of that stuff. But no, they decided, oh, fuck that, I'm going to go get a degree in gender studies or communications or psychology, but then just never use that. I'm going to go blog instead.
There's a meme. There's a meme out there. The feminist meme, she's got dreadlocks, and it says complains that there aren't enough women engineers, spends $20,000 on a social studies degree.
They're all going into those social sciences. They don't go into the hard sciences ever.
Well, here's the thing.
There's a tagline out. There's a tagline that's being thrown around there. It goes a little something like this: "Be the change you want to see." How is getting a social studies degree and complaining that there aren't enough female engineers, or indeed females in any STEM field? How is that being the change you want to see?
Here's the thing.
If you want to be the change you want to see, go for an engineering degree. Go for a chemistry degree or a biology degree.
There is a vicious circle afoot Okay. Shortly after the Iron Wall started really getting put in place, you had the exodus of all these minds who realized that they weren't going to get paid for a lot of the work that they were doing. So they brought their socialism and their, a few of their other ideas to the West. So that way they could actually get paid at the universities. They sort of inculcated a lot of the ideas into culture. It started picking up. You started running with postmodern thought, the rise of the social justice warrior, and now you've got all these young, impressionable people who are taking a look at these book writers and people on the talk circuit who are coming to their local schools and saying, like high schools, and going, oh, we need rights for group X, Y, and Z. And then they go to college. And they decide to go ahead and major in something like that. Now, most of the time, they're not that vocal until after they get out of college and realize, oh, shit, I gotta make money off this? Oh, what the hell am I gonna do? I gotta make money off this now. So the only way that they can make money is by inventing problems to solve. That's how they make their money.
There's no truth to this. This is kind of why I had a mixed reaction to Dana Boyd's piece on the Oculus Rift. I don't know if Rachel, I don't think you were here when I mentioned this story. Dana Boyd actually did something good and interesting in her research. She is a researcher at Microsoft and has been working on technology called the Oculus Rift, which is a neat 3D immersive gaming technology. One of the things that she noticed was that these 3D gaming environments, these goggles, tended to make her disoriented, dizzy, and even nauseous. And then she noticed that other women using the Oculus Rift were experiencing the same thing, where guys usually did not experience that. And she began wondering, what's up with that? Why is that happening? Now, unfortunately, she had to go and use the term sexist. Like a technological effect can be sexist, right? But and so that got under my nerves. But she appears to have discovered that there is a difference in the way women technically process depth perception information from the way men process depth perception. And they will probably be making some adjustments to 3D technology to fix that. Now, that is actually, to me, an example of doing something intelligent with your, I don't know, she refers to it as activism, but it looks like research to me. You found out there's a difference between the way male and female brains process 3D information. And that's fascinating.
Feminists are going to be all over that.
Well, there's the thing, too. Right?
Honestly, I'm skeptical of that, too. I am skeptical of that, because there are just as many women who own and play on Nintendo 3DS than there are men. And no women, I haven't seen any articles of women complaining that the 3D effect on the Nintendo 3DS causes them to be more sick than their male counterparts.
It might just be the difference with the Oculus Rift.
No, I don't think... No, because the Oculus Rift uses a very, very similar technology for creating the 3D effect. It uses a parallax, which is essentially two different screens with two different cameras, and the screens are essentially angled.
All right, first off, you should
it's
read
not
her
two
paper.
screens.
First off, you should read her paper. She's got some real research on it, and the big difference with a 3DS and this Rift thing is that it's the 3DS is not immersive. It's this little thing you look down at. It is not something that is a completely immersive environment. So whatever effect that she's talking about is going to be greatly amplified. It may not be that noticeable on the little tiny screen, but is noticeable. I mean, she's done some real research here.
Yeah, and part of that research also has to do with the Department of Defense simulations as well, which I've taken part of personally, and been able to run through and play some simulations on post, and I will also point out that there was one video game very recently that sort of got slammed by the gaming community for causing the type of sick feeling that people get whenever they look at the screen and play the game for too long. And that was Borderlands 2.
Yeah, and you want to know why? And it has nothing to do with 3D effect. Like, I will grant you,
it had to do with
I will grant you that the Oculus field of view, exactly. I was just going to mention that. I will grant you that the Oculus Rift is much more immersive in the sense that it cuts out all visual information from outside of the headset. So all you see is what's running inside the software, the game or the simulation, whatever. However, I don't think it's the 3D that's causing motion sickness. I think it's the field of view. See, the problem is, and I had a big problem when I was playing games like Modern Warfare 2, where the FOVs are locked at 65.
Ugh.
I'm a PC gamer, so I'm less than 3 feet away from my screen at all times. It's great for console gamers because they're like 8 feet back away from the TV. And that's fine. They can handle a 65-degree FOV at that distance from the screen. But 3 feet away, a 65-degree FOV is just not enough. It causes motion sickness, nausea in a lot of people. So I don't think it's the 3D effect. I think it's the FOV. They are claiming that the Oculus Rift and Sony's Project Morpheus will be running at 90-degree FOVs, but you've also got to remember that the closer the screen is to your eyes, the wider the FOV. So if I'm fine on a 90-degree FOV playing on my PC,
if people don't know what
sitting
FOV
3
is,
feet away, field of view. Field of view. The field of view is the angle at which the camera can capture the image. So when you widen your field of view, typically the human eyes have a field of view, a peripheral field of view of about 180 degrees. Some have a little bit less, but it's about 180 degrees.
Now, can I tell you about the paper you haven't read? In the scientific paper that she wrote, wherein she references a number of other scientific studies, it has been shown definitively that females are more prone to motion sickness from simulators than males are. The Army found it. Everybody's found it. And furthermore, she shows statistically that there are two different ways of determining depth perception, and that females prefer one over the other, and that these simulators aren't using the ones that females like. These are all facts. They're not opinions.
Right.
Okay,
right.
If I can jump in here with a theory, I think it actually goes back to when we were evolving from the caves.
Probably.
Okay.
And here's why I say that. Men were sent out to hunt and kill. Not all of this was done during daylight hours. Some of this was done at nighttime, but for the most part, daylight hours. Would you guys agree with that?
I guess human beings never lived in caves, but okay.
Sexual dimorphism.
Yeah. Whereas women were staying in the caves, and caves are generally dark.
No.
Okay, human beings never lived in caves. Never.
Hold on. Let me hop in here for a minute, and we're going to talk about, just for 1 minute, the two different types of depth perception that's involved. When men went out to hunt, they were always on the move. They had prey that was on the move. They had to be able to determine distance accurately through the use of motion. Okay? The example that she used was, you set a Coke can in front of someone, and The Coke can's a certain size according to how far it is away. You push the Coke can towards someone. The brain doesn't interpret it as the Coke can growing. The brain determines it as the Coke can getting closer. All right? Now, this is even if the Coke can is on a completely black background. So if all you saw was nothing but black, with the exception of this Coke can, you would determine that the Coke can is coming closer.
Right.
But the other type of depth perception that is involved has to do with the way shading is framed. And when you had hunter-gatherer societies, while the men were busy determining depth perception through motion, women were busy determining depth perception through shading, because they were providing about 80% of what was being eaten by reaching out and grabbing and gathering from trees and off the ground and the different grasses and everything else.
Right.
And this difference in the fact that they were dealing with primarily still objects and determining distance to a still object by the way...
At arm's length.
At arm's length. By the way, light moves off the object in relation to how their eyes have that natural jiggle, like every human has, that's how women were primarily determining their depth. Okay? The distance.
That's kind of the point I was getting to. I guess I just took a long time to get there.
So what we have here is we actually have an example of some research that has been done that shows that there are two different types of depth perception, and that the Oculus is using one more than the other, and it makes it more difficult for women to be able to use the device, because there's the normal cues that women primarily use are simply not present enough.
Couldn't it be fixed with settings, though?
No.
Well, sure, they can fix all of it.
Well, not with settings,
what
but
they need
also
is, if you read her paper, they have to make some adjustments, and they have to do more research on it, because this shading effect, it's kind of pronounced. I mean, mind you, there are males whose brains work more like females and vice versa on this, but what will happen to the women most commonly, they're more likely to get the motion sickness, or what they call simulator sickness when they get in, then they adjust, and then they're also more prone to being sick after they get out, because their brains are having trouble re-scrambling themselves.
Well,
so what they're looking at is modifying the Oculus Rift to use shading more effectively as well as distance, which should improve the technology for everybody, actually, because men do use shading too, just a little less.
It'll improve the technology, yes, but it'll also increase the price, because now you have to have one device that handles two different ways of creating a 3D depth of field.
Well, what it also mentions in the article is that when they give the women shots of testosterone, they're more capable of handling the simulator the way it is.
Androgen.
Androgen.
Yes.
And it also the hormone balance for people. If you give men going through hormone replacement therapy in there, they get sicker. So I don't see it as sexist. I see it as, this is our biology. And we're learning more about our biology by creating this technology.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool. I just didn't like the way she had to put a feminist spin on it.
Yeah.
Like a male conspiracy. Otherwise, she found out something interesting.
They have a hard time accepting that there are, differences between men and women, because they want to believe that there's, aside from just, genitals, that there's no difference. It's that whole theory of gender neutrality bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it is a scientific fact it is a scientific fact that the male brain and the female brain are wired differently.
Exactly. Yeah. And they believe that somehow acknowledging these differences are going to make any difference to whether or not they receive rights. That's bullshit.
Well, once again, they abhor a merit-based system. They abhor it. If rights and the requisite responsibilities that came with them were completely on a merit-based system, that might mean that these college kids who are in the business of inventing problems might actually have to go back through, get another degree, and do some real fucking work in their lives.
Yeah, well, but
I'd go
kudos.
for another degree at this point.
I would
all
kill
I'm
myself.
going to say on the matter, all I'm going to say on the matter is that I expect to get motion sickness from the Oculus Rift just because of the way FOV works. If you put a 90-degree FOV 2 inches away from my eyes, that's not a wide enough FOV.
No,
I
it's
need
not.
at least 140, 150.
Right.
Otherwise,
I agree
I'm
with
going to
that.
feel nauseous.
I agree with that, because I'm telling you, my personal, and the reason why I knew the whole thing with the FOV is because I've got a copy of Borderlands 2, and I love that game, and I started playing, and I was playing on the default FOV. Okay? And their 90-degree FOV was not 90 degrees. Okay? I ended up having to get a sort of an add-on thing going on where I could actually expand the FOV even further than what they said that 90 degree was, because after playing the game for a couple of days, I'm sitting with my girlfriend in the car, and I have got the worst fucking case of motion sickness ever. My head is pounding, everything is horrible, and it lasts for several hours. Several hours. I just feel totally disoriented. I just wanted to puke everywhere. So, after that, I'm like, I'm going to go play my game some more. So I go back into the game, but going back into the game, I started to experience an uncomfortable, stomach-turning feeling. And I was like, oh, what the fuck is going on here? And then, I keep playing the game for a couple more hours, and I'm fine. And then I stop playing the game, and coming back to real life, all of a sudden I can't even walk straight. That's how messed up I am. And I'm like, holy crap!
The experiment she's talking about doing, if she's right, and I suspect that she's onto something, and they start using both motion and shading, it shouldn't require a whole lot more computational power. It really shouldn't. It shouldn't make anything more expensive. You're talking about using shading as part of your depth perception thing. Computers can change shades of colors very easily. It should be a coding adjustment that they have to experiment with. And if she's correct, everybody's going to tend to get less motion sickness and have a richer 3D environment. And it's probably not going to be expensive. It'll be a coding tweak.
And I'll tell you what. Let's consider the demand that would be increased, because all of a sudden you've got a product that is a product design that will eventually be replicated across the board for new types of
That's right.
of imaging systems like that.
Because let's be clear, men use shading as part of their depth perception too, just not as much as women, and vice versa. If you take both into account, you're just going to have a richer environment, and it should only be a coding tweak. So, give it to her. This feminist researcher may have actually found something that, for once, improves the technology.
Yeah.
Well, here's something
Shit
that
Anita
just got
Sarkeesian
put in.
never did.
Shit that Anita Sarkeesian never did or will do.
Yeah,
Here's
she'll
something
never
that got put into
contribute like
chat
that.
by Mean Gene. Oculus Real Porn.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know that's going to happen. I mean,
okay, it already
as soon as that gets
exists. It already exists. There's actually
I must be behind
not
it.
only is there like I believe porn. It's also a situation where they have a thing that sort of attaches to a Tenga egg and kind of moves up and down. So
Oh,
the girl is,
sweet.
like jerking you off
I don't want to know.
in the game.
So speaking of porn, what did everybody think of Game of Thrones last week?
Oh,
Oh my God!
wait.
I thought it was
Crazy ass
phenomenal
purist
at
with
the very
sound.
end. I thought it was phenomenal at the very end. Sorry for speaking over you, Rachel. But when you saw the look on Tyrion's face when he demanded trial by combat, I was just blown away at the expressiveness of the actor, and I thought, you know what? I'm in. That episode is what got me completely hooked into Game of Thrones now.
Tyrion is the best.
Yeah,
He really is.
He really is. If he goes, I go. I mean, I just can't.
Yeah, Jim, you're still catching up on the first couple of seasons, right? So
yeah, I didn't have much time
current,
this week, so
you're
I was
watching the
keeping
current
up
season, but haven't
stuff.
seen the back episodes too much.
Right.
Yeah, Peter Dinklage has been consistently one of the very best things about the series, like from day one, hasn't he, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Peter Dinklage, aka the actor who plays
Tyrion. Yeah,
he just keeps getting better too.
I have to agree. This is the reason why I'm just like that got me hooked, and I promise by next show, I will be completely caught up with Game of Thrones. You have my word.
Okay.
Oh, that's good.
Now you guys have to get caught up with like Penny Dreadful and shit.
Oh, I gotta tell you, Rachel, you're on my shit list now.
What?
You're on my shit list. She talked me into watching Penny Dreadful and said stick with it for 2 episodes. I did, and I walked away going, why did I watch that?
It's wonderful. It's like a wonderful what the fuck kind of series. I'm moved.
Well, we know what her sense of humor is like. Then we now know what she's like.
It. I mean, because
okay.
I'm not.
I haven't seen it.
Going in, I thought this was going to be some kind of like what was it? Fucking
Monster of the Week.
The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen kind of shit, and I thought, okay, we'll go, and we'll see what happens. So you get in there, and it's unpredictable. I mean, I think I had an idea of where it was going, and it completely veered off. And people who had been watching from first episode are already like, "Oh my gosh, what did you do?" And I'm thinking, "Oh, this is great." Everybody's just getting collectively ticked off because they built up a particular character, right? And they added all this really nice sort of heartwarming stuff, and then he's killed like second episode in. It was like
Okay, Penny Dreadful is a new series from Showtime. It's set in like the 1870s in England, and in the Gaslight era of Victorian / Edwardian England. And let's see, Victor Frankenstein is a character. Dorian Gray is a character. I'm not sure who else from the fictional world of that era is on there yet.
Dracula is
in there.
It's going to be probably going to be a future character, but we have Mina, who was the character in Bram Stoker's Dracula, and she's been taken, and her father's, her father's looking for her, and you go into second episode, you're thinking, okay, he's just a concerned father, and then Eva Green's character is at the seance, and she's like overcome with like evil spirits and shit, and then she gets up on the fucking table, and she starts like going into the spiel talking about how they were having like this crazy incestuous relationship, and she's like straight up like talking about like fucking dysentery like streaming out of her ass and stuff, and it's like it's crazy.
Okay. It's I don't know. My wife and I both watched.
It's batshit insane. It's batshit insane.
Well, that's the thing. My wife and I both sat.
Curiosity.
My wife and I both sat and watched the first 2 episodes back to back, and neither one of us could make ourselves care about anything or anybody on the show. So we might stick with it, but so far Penny Dreadful's doing nothing for me. Sorry,
it's pretty
I'm only
dreadful,
teasing you. It is. It's not dreadful. I actually just found it boring, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, it's there only for the fact that you've got Billie Piper as a redheaded.
Well, Billie Piper as a redheaded Irish prostitute.
Yes.
You do have that going. So you Doctor Who
well,
fans.
that makes a lot of fanboys' wet dreams come true right there.
Yes, right there. Yeah.
She's got a really
she's
thick
different.
Irish accent, too. She's
Yeah.
got a really thick Irish accent she's using, which is kind of sexy, if you can understand it. Which, fortunately, I can.
I
But
can.
my wife was telling me she was having trouble understanding her. I'm like, well, she's doing it right then. She sounds extremely Irish. And I've always kind of been hot for Billie Piper. So you got me there, but Rachel, I think I'm going to have to stick with this show a little longer if I'm going to like it. I might give it one more, but I don't know.
It's got my interest peaked. I mean, I know that it could go any direction from episode 3, but my interest is peaked if only for Eva Green's character doing the bit where she just goes completely mental, gets up on the table. I mean, she shatters the whole fucking table, and she gets up there and she's like just going on and on and on about being like something like Amanet or whatever, and she's like, she's tilted her completely back, and she's like screaming at the top of her lungs, and I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing.
Yeah, that's not a typical seance scene, is it? All right, so getting back to the show everybody has seen, Game of Thrones. Does anybody want to make a prediction? Here's my prediction: Jaime Lannister's about to die.
No.
I don't think it's going to be Jaime Lannister dying, but I do think Jaime Lannister is going to be his oh god, what's it called? His champion, and you're going to see him fight with the left hand and actually do very well.
Is it a given that Tyrion Lannister is going to be his sword? See, I have an opposite theory. And of course, this is all speculation, right? But he might be the one who's expected to take up arms against his brother, and Tyrion may have to use his own. What's his guy? The guy who's already his bodyguard to come in and fight Jaime. In which case, Jaime's going to die.
See, I don't think the fight is even going to take place.
You think they'll stop it from taking place?
Okay, well, because both sides have something to lose in this. Okay. If Jaime fies
no matter what side he fights on.
Okay, if Tywin chooses Jaime, he has the stake, in having, somebody to carry on his lineage dying. Okay, if Tyrion loses Jaime, he loses the fight as well. I mean, I think that instead of that, somebody is gonna spring him out of jail. Because you have that feeling going on that it's going to happen, because there's no good way for him. He can't go into the Night's Watch. I
hate to say it, 404 in the chat room says that there's no way to cancel the fight. He called for it publicly. The fight has to happen.
Well, unless he runs. I think she's suggesting that they may find a way to arrange an escape instead. Including the Lannisters themselves may find a way to help him escape, just so that the fight doesn't have to happen. That's a plausible scenario, but it still leaves Tyrion running around out there as a wanted man, if that's the case.
Which could be very interesting.
Yes, it could.
I don't think that either side would really benefit from trial by combat. Not really. I mean, even if he goes back to King's Landing, and after all this, like, nobody's going to be able to look at him the same way. He's not going to be treated the same way. It's never going to be the same. There's nothing for him to go back to.
I think that's why he did it, is because, he's pretty much just decided he's fucked. They did everything they could to destroy him at every level, and he's like, okay, I'm going to take you motherfuckers with me. Yeah.
He's like, fuck you guys.
Well, I don't have any idea exactly how it's going to happen, but I'm fairly convinced that either way, Tyrion Lannister is going to take the black. He's going to be forced to join the Night's Watch.
I don't see it happening. I just don't see that happening. So we'll have to have a bet on it or something. I think Tyrion would rather die. I think he really would. I think he has gamed the situation out and made the best call he could make for himself. Especially if he seriously would rather die than... I mean, think what just happened to him, too. That whore girlfriend of his just sold him out. Just completely sold him out. He's got to be
I couldn't even watch that whole
her.
scene because it just it was too heart-wrenching.
It really was. I actually thought that was a really good study in how love make a man crazy, because he was totally in love with that chick, and she was always a narcissistic egotist, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was.
Always. And she was stupid
right from
because she was too much of a narcissist. Of course, Tyrion was dumb because he should have told her more often. He kept saying things like, it's dangerous for you here. He never said the explicit words, do you realize they will kill you? Nobody ever said that to her. So that always made me a little crazy, because she was like, danger, danger, what's danger? And if somebody had said, getting your head cut off, bitch, maybe she would have listened. But otherwise, she was always...
What happened to the other prostitute? What happened to the other prostitute who they thought was Shay?
They killed her.
Yeah.
They killed her.
Yeah. Yeah.
They killed her. And not only did they kill her, but didn't they serve her up to Joffrey?
I don't know about that.
And Joffrey had the one woman beat her to death?
Yeah, I'm not remembering
that. I don't know. That I don't know. I mean, I know Joffrey is like a sadist, but I don't think he ate her.
Either way, she's always been a narcissistic, self-centered little bitch, and she just sold him down the river. He's probably looking at it and going, oh, you want me to take the black? Yeah, so I can die on that wall? Fuck y'all. Fuck you all.
He doesn't even benefit the plot, though. He doesn't benefit the plot if he goes to Castle Black and stuff. It doesn't really benefit from him being out there. It benefits... It is most beneficial for him to be kind of out on the run, right. Like Arya or Sansa. Can we talk about the situation going on with Sansa right now? She's out there with that batshit insane kind of woman who's like taking it personally that she's even there. Yeah, her aunt.
Yeah.
And she's got that crazy like mommy dearest kind of vibe. And you remember, like, I think it was in the early seasons, like she was breastfeeding her like son, who was like, he's got to be like 10 now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, shit, lady.
And now, and she was after Sansa and the Spider. By the way, is anybody? He's called the Spider, right? What the hell's his name again?
Oh gosh,
was hot for Sansa's mother, and who just rescued Sansa.
I'm trying to remember.
No, that's
Littlefinger.
Littlefinger, yeah. That's right. I meant the Littlefinger.
The Spider is, I think, the fat eunuch.
No, right, the eunuch. I'm sorry, I meant Littlefinger. Littlefinger. How about Littlefinger, huh? I mean, I still haven't figured out what his angle is, except...
I don't know, but he does seem to be a little bit hot for Sansa. He kind of looks at her in a bit of a creepy way.
Well, and he was hot for Sansa's mother.
Yeah, exactly, that's why. That's the only reason I think so.
Did anybody but me notice that his accent completely changed?
Yeah, I noticed that.
His accent completely changed. Yep, go watch the last episode he was in before he leaves King's Landing, and then go listen to the way he talks when he comes back. It's like he's suddenly taken on an Irish accent, which is a neat little subtlety, but it's there. It's really, once you have it pointed out, it's really pretty obvious.
You understand that he's a manipulator, though, so even doing something like changing like subtle tones in his accent, I don't know, it might be intentional.
My guess is that when he was in King's Landing, he was using a fake upper class accent, and now he's using his real accent. Yeah. That's how we're meant to interpret it, because it's actually a marked change if you've got an ear for accents, which I do.
Yeah, I do. He
suddenly sounds Irish. Like, where did that come from? Like, but I can't decide whether I feel sorry for Sansa or just hate her guts.
I think that's what they want us to do, is just not be able to figure it out. Rachel told me she's like the most boring character, but I look at her and I see some subtleties in there. I don't think she's as boring as everybody wants to believe. I just think she's a lot more subtle.
She is like the very picture of letting events control her rather than seizing control of events. Have you ever seen her seize control of any situation in the entire 4 seasons? I've never seen her seize control.
I'm hoping
she just sort of lays back
and then starts becoming a better character.
That's what I want. I want her to suddenly snap. Maybe it'll be her mom who does it to her.
I think that's what it's moving towards. You know what I mean?
She's gonna lose her shit, and then suddenly it's on. She's just gonna start taking care of business. I don't know. It could happen.
Well, no, because I mean, Arya has always been that type of character.
Yes.
Not Sansa. Sansa was always the quiet, sort of. She always. It's almost like she was raised to act like she's an object, just laying there peacefully and quietly, and allowing events around her to shape her life. Mm-hmm. Whereas Arya, she never took that. They tried to raise her that same way, but she was always more of a tomboy. Yeah. And she rejected the whole idea of allowing outside forces to dictate how she acts and the life that she lives.
Brienne of Tarth is actually a lot similar to that.
Very similar.
Very similar. Except I think she has a more of a sense of honor than Arya. I think Arya is more mentally geared for revenge. She's more revenge minded, whereas Brienne is
Arya's one of my favorite characters, and one of the things I can't figure out is why does she still hate the Hound? Has she not figured out yet that he's not that bad a guy? Why does she still hate him? Or is
because he killed that kid?
Yeah, because it was actually the Hound that executed her friend back in.
I know, but she's seen so much bloodshed by now. You would think that she would figure out he's just a sellsword, not a sadist. I guess that just doesn't matter to her, though, huh?
No.
Well, she's at that point in life where she's young and stupid, and that really comes through. I mean, she's not the smartest girl. I mean, she is smart, but only as smart as a 12-year-old can really be. Or how old is she now? 14.
It's unclear, but yeah, she's still basically a little girl. All right, fair enough. I would have thought she would have had some kind of bonding moment with the Hound by now, but it doesn't seem to have happened. She still seems to hate it.
I don't think it will.
I think it's kind of coming, but it's interrupted every few times you see them together with the Hound doing just
really fucked up shit.
Yeah, like stealing from the farmers who gave them shelter.
Yeah, fair enough.
And stealing and killing that room full of people to get a chicken. Oh gosh, I saw a really great meme of that. It's like the Hound's like Kentucky Fried Chicken sort of deal. It's like him having a chicken joint.
Well, James has given us the signal that we should start wrapping up the show, so maybe we should.
We've been going almost an hour and 40 minutes, so.
Oh, geez.
I think this is actually a good place to wrap it up.
All right. Well, I'm going to end with my prediction. I'm going to end with my prediction that something bad is going to happen to Jaime Lannister as a result of I'm just saying something bad as a result of this demand for trial by combat, which is otherwise a master stroke by Tyrion. Anybody else want to make a prediction? It'd be fun if everybody makes a prediction.
I think he's more beneficial to the story by staying alive, so I don't think Jaime Lannister is going to die. I don't think that Tywin is even going to risk him dying.
Okay. Yeah, based upon Tywin's ego that I've seen so far, I would say it might be something bad, but mainly Jaime's going to get out alive, but I honestly think Jaime's going to be stuck in Casterly Rock.
Okay.
Yeah, I do actually. I also don't think that Jaime is going to be picked for trial by combat, mainly because Tywin really, really cares about passing on his legacy, his name, and Jaime has offered to leave the Kingsguard if he shows mercy for Tyrion. So he'll leave the Kingsguard, and then he'll be able to marry and have children.
Yeah.
He's already had children.
Outside of the incestual.
Yeah, but Tywin doesn't know that shit, or he does, and he doesn't want to acknowledge it.
Yeah. So I mean, that leaving the Kingsguard will free up Jaime to marry outside the family and have children that are not products of incest. It will carry on the Lannister name. So I don't think Tywin is actually going to name Jaime as the champion of the crown.
Well, I think that's why Tyrion probably will.
Tyrion might. That is actually a really good point. Tyrion might name him, or Tyrion might name his sellsword, his sellsword friend, who at this point is a much better swordsman than Jaime, just because Jaime hasn't really gotten used to the whole using his left hand. But the final part of my prediction is I honestly think that Tyrion is going to be sent to the Wall to take the Black. Now, whether or not he goes there and actually does take the oath and become a Man of the Night's Watch, or he escapes somehow en route, that's still left to be decided, but I still think he's going to be sent there as his sentence.
Well, will be interesting to see. I can't wait to see it tomorrow night. Wouldn't it suck? We might not see anything. They might spend the entire episode on Daenerys. And we see nothing for 5
and maybe
seconds.
If Penny Dreadful picks up, I'll let everyone know about me and my female guilty pleasures.
I think it is a chick show. A chick show. But we'll see. Hey, listen, can I get in? I need to get in something about next week. Next week, for sure, it's locked down, guaranteed. Senator Ann Cools, Canada's longest currently serving senator, Senator Ann Cools, will be joining us on Revelations with Aaron Pitsey. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, I'll definitely listen to that show.
Mm-hmm.
James Huff, do you have any predictions about Game of Thrones?
Oh god, you're asking the wrong guy. I've got the first 3 seasons sitting on my computer. I've been wanting to sit down and watch it with my girlfriend.
James.
I have not watched a single episode of Game of Thrones.
50 nerd points.
He is really busy. You seem to forget all of the work he puts into handling AVFM radio. He is extremely busy, so I don't fault him for not,
priorities, man. It's Game of Thrones. Priorities, man. It's Game of Thrones.
I will tell you one of the. Well, actually, there's a few shows that I don't miss. Okay, I don't miss True Blood with my girlfriend. I don't miss Elementary. I don't miss Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Okay. I don't miss American Horror Story.
Well, see, now you have all these wonderful slots where you could shove Game of Thrones, and you're just not.
Yes, you must shove Game of Thrones somewhere.
You gotta shove it in one of the slots.
One of the slots.
One of the orifices.
So, well, we'll see. We'll see. If I can sit down and get through the first 3 seasons and then find a way to watch the 4th, we'll be set. I'll be able to.
Believe me, it's extremely easy.
Conversation with you guys.
It's extremely easy because once you watch the first episode, you're hooked, and you won't want to do anything but watch Game of Thrones until it's over.
Yeah, I ended up watching that. Oh, jeez. I think I watched a good portion of Game of Thrones in the span of 5 days.
Yeah, I watched almost the first 2 seasons of True Blood with
nobody should
my girlfriend, back to back.
I'm going to give a slight disagreement on that. I know we got to close, but I actually wasn't even sure I liked Game of Thrones at first because I found it too confusing. But bulldozing on through and just watching it, I fell in love with it. So there you go.
All right.
Well, Well, I think
have my
that
homework.
yes, James, you have your homework, and I am certainly excited for tomorrow night's episode. I am going to be watching it probably 3 times over. I'll have to take.
Well, I
it and watch
probably won't go three times over, but I'm definitely salivating over it.
But I guess, yeah, that wraps up our show. Thank you, everybody who was listening, for taking the time out of your Saturday afternoon to come and listen to us nerd rage and argue over what most people in the world would consider pointless shit. And
Hey, I like this pointless shit. Fuck everybody who thinks that.
So I mean, thank you, Dean. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, James. And remember, take the red pill.